Hello. Hi, can you hear me? Please, there's a background noise because I am not at my usual location. Please, if you can hear me, say hello in the comments. Can you hear me? I'm only seeing two people. Where is everybody? Everybody is preparing to end the year. Okay, three people. I've seen my brother, number one, and I'm going to answer your question because you're the first person to join me. Okay? So hello. Let's just keep waiting. I wish I had music. Please, is the background noise so much? Like, can you hear me? Or I don't know whether I'm shouting too much. There's a background noise, and I've tried all sorts to stop the noise, but it's not working. Please, can you hear me? If you can hear me, please say hello in the comments. Okay, Mr. Omar, sorry, I don't want to murder your name. Mr. Solomon, thank you for joining me. Caller, thank you for joining me. Gift, thank you for joining me. Patience, thank you for joining me. Conrad, thank you for joining me. Mr. Roland, thank you for joining me. Okay, I don't need to shout too much. Yeah, okay, thank you. I won't shout too much. Adebawa Kende, thank you for joining me. Mary O, thank you for joining me. Diaspora parties, please. Are you in Canada? I'm looking for a party to attend. This walk is not letting me see road. I'm looking for where to go out. Oh, okay, I'm on the top of my voice, but is it okay now so that it doesn't look like I'm shouting too much? Like I've lowered my voice because I was shouting because of the background noise. But if it's okay, if you can hear me and it's fine, I'll really appreciate it. Daniel, thank you for joining me. Okay. So it's okay. So I won't shout anymore. Because of the noise at the background, I felt like I wasn't, like I needed to raise my voice too much. Okay, so no background noise. Okay, that's nice. That's good. I'm happy about that then. Okay. So I wouldn't waste too much of your time. At least my people that have joined me, let me quickly start by answering your questions before we jump into talking about something else. And the last time I promised I was going to stay a bit longer today, but I felt, okay, maybe I should do a live today, do another live tomorrow, and then do another live on the 31st. That way I can clear up all the backlog, which I mean, instead of sitting down, shooting the video, editing, and then uploading, that one takes so much of my time. So if I do the live once and for all, it sorts all the problems of answering your questions. So I wouldn't waste too much time. I will start immediately. It's already 1 minute past the time I set. So I'm going to start. And I want to say thank you for joining me on this last Sunday of 2024. This year has been, a lot of people have had it, even me too, and I just can't wait for it to end. But I'm grateful that I'm alive, and I'm also grateful that you are also alive and joining me on this live session. So I won't waste too much of your time. I'll start by answering the questions that I've seen so far, and my brother is the one asking this question. Okay, so how does one progress in the trades pathway using the trades category? So the trades pathway is tied to express entry. It's tied to express entry, but there are provinces that are also, like provinces like Ontario, they also have their trades draw, but I mean the person needs to have a job offer. For the express entry trades draw, the person just needs to create an express entry profile and get good scores. So if the person has gotten his or her certificate, create the profile using the tier code that the person is eligible for. So, I mean, there are about 10 occupations that are under the trades category. So the person can just choose if the person is a welder or a plumber or HVAC, right? HVAC. Use the HVAC tier code and create an express entry profile. Of course, the person has to evaluate their credentials. So let's say the person has a bachelor's degree or a bachelor's degree in engineering, in mechanical engineering or civil engineering or construction engineering, and the person has experience in trades, and the person has gotten their trades qualification from the Federal Ministry of Labor in Nigeria, the person can go ahead and create his or her profile, but the person must have evaluated their bachelor's degree education so that they can use the WES number to create their profile, and the person should also write IELTS. Some time ago, ICAS, that's the evaluating body in Alberta, ICAS typically evaluated engineering qualifications as a master's qualifications. ICAS used to do that. I don't know if they have stopped doing that or they are still doing that. So that the more educational qualification the person has, the more points the person gets in the express entry pool. So like I said, I don't know if they are still doing that or if they have stopped doing it. They grade engineering, law, as professional programs. So anything that is under the professional program is equated to a master's program and also given the points for master's instead of a bachelor's degree. So your question is, how can the person progress? The person should go ahead and create their express entry profile. And if the score is high enough, they'll be invited under the trades category to submit the application for permanent residence. But if the person's score is not high enough, they also have the opportunity of getting Ontario provincial nomination, because Ontario has gone into the pool before to select people with trades occupation and giving them nomination. That will give them 600 points. So even if the person's score is not high enough to be invited under the federal, there's a possibility of being invited or getting a notification of interest from Ontario. That's another option. Then there are also other options that are not tied to express entry. They just have to submit their applications directly to those people. I'll give an example. Stanley Winkler. I did a video about Stanley Winkler. Stanley Winkler is a community in Manitoba. They have an immigration pathway. You don't need to have a family relative to support your application. At some point, they were looking for trades people as well. So that is one option. And then the other ones are tied to job offers. If the person gets a job offer and comes in, the person can get a provincial nomination. Job offers in places like British Columbia, places like Alberta, places like the Atlantic provinces, then the person can immigrate under the Atlantic immigration pilot. And then Prince Edward Island also, I don't know if they have one for trades, but I know that they listed some occupations that they need. Typically, they have the option for people who are outside Canada and the people who are inside Canada. And then once the person gets a job offer, the person can apply for provincial nomination. So that is the first question. I'll move on to the next question. I hope I'm still loud and clear and not I don't know if my voice is still loud and clear. Anyway, okay, so I'll move on to the next. Studied French at the university, teacher in Nigeria, did IELTS, result was bad, overall 6.0. What advice can you offer? If you studied French, please write the French language exam. Please write the French language exam and get very good scores in French. Once you get very good scores in your French language exam, you have the opportunity to be invited under the French category-based draw. That's option one. You also have the option of getting an invitation from Ontario. That's option two. You also have the option of attending a program called Destination Canada. That program is strictly for people who can speak French. And that program, you will meet employers that will hire you in French. That's they will interview you and hire you and bring you to Canada. And if you don't know, people with French language skills, they are people that are exempt. That's any employer that hires a French person is exempt from LMIA. Every other employer must apply to get LMIA, but people who have French language skills, if an employer wants to hire them, they are exempt from providing LMIA. So you can get a job, you can go ahead and search for job opportunities with your French language skills. If you get a job offer, your employer does not need to submit an LMIA or give you LMIA for you to apply for work permit. But if you want to come as a permanent resident, then write the French language exam, which is TEF or TCF, get very high scores, and then go into the pool. Once you get into the pool, you will be invited under the category-based draw for French. You will also get an invitation or notification of interest from Ontario for French. Manitoba used to have their own, but they announce it once in a while. New Brunswick also used to have their own, but they've paused it. They will start it next year. For New Brunswick, all you need to do is visit New Brunswick, and then you can apply for provincial nomination. But it must be New Brunswick you're visiting first, and then explore, then you apply to them. If you don't visit New Brunswick first, let's say you visit Ontario first before you visit New Brunswick, they will not give it to you. So that's what they used to do, but they've paused that pathway. I don't know if they will open it for next year. So that's French. But if you want to search for jobs, you can search for jobs. Like I said, you don't need an LMIU to get a job offer if you are bilingual. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. Which rural area in Alberta can you recommend to get a job that will give a PR to a master's student who just conclude program in project management? Okay, so there is the Alberta Rural Renewal Stream. That program is an immigration program for, I think, about 20 communities, 20 rural communities in Alberta that are outside Calgary and Edmonton area. So what will happen is this: I'll put the, what do you call it now, the link to the information on the community tab so that you can pick it up from there. So there are 20 communities. I cannot recommend anyone. You have to go to each of the community websites, search for jobs. If you're able to get a job offer, then you can, and then get community recommendation, you can then apply for provincial nomination under the Alberta Rural Renewal Stream. Okay, so I will move on to the next. I manage and own a brand in Nigeria, and I mentioned it in my previous application with RCC as business owner. Please, can I claim the work experience in my PR? Yes, you can claim the work experience. When you're filling your application form, that's the express entry application, there are options for you to choose self-employed. In fact, it's a small, tiny box where you put your employment details, and then it will ask, is this a self-employed employment? You check that box. Once you check that box, yes. But when you are providing your documents, you have to provide your business registration documents, your tax clearance certificates, like everything that has to do with your business, the annual returns, a screenshot of your business showing on CSC website that it is active. Because if your business is not active on CSC website, they will think that your business is no longer in existence. Proof of your business on social media platforms, proof of your business website. You have to provide all of these documents. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. My first program is not successful, but the second one is successful in New Brunswick. Can I apply for AIP? Sorry, please provide clarity to that question. What do you mean by program? Are you already in New Brunswick or you're not in New Brunswick? I want to know. Please provide more details so that I can answer you. Okay. I'll move on to the next. I heard that if you get admission for a 12-month master's program, your spouse will not be eligible for an open work permit. Yes, because the requirement is 2 years or 18 months and above. That's the requirement. 18 months and above for you to, is it 18 months? I think 2 years. 2 years, not 18 months. Let me not say what's not there. 2 years master's program, then you qualify for, your spouse will qualify for spousal open work permit. Okay. Okay, so you're saying he already has EE profile with 420. I just thought something else was needed. Okay. Yeah, so he should create a profile. If he already has an EE profile, all he needs to do is just change the tier code to the HVAC experience. Yeah, change the primary tier code. The primary tier code is what should be changed to the trades experience, so that if Ontario or if the federal does their draw, they will pick him. If Ontario does goes through the express entry, they will also pick him as well. Okay. I think I've answered this question. Okay, so let me answer this next question. Is it better to immigrate to Canada through master's or PhD program? Someone advised that I go for master's, but I have master's already. Okay, so if you want to come for PhD, you have to, most PhD programs, you need a supervisor first before you even get admission, right? Because most of the PhD programs are research. You hardly find a course-based PhD program. Most of them are research-based PhD programs. So you have to look for a supervisor, and then look for a program that aligns with what you intend to do. And they are fully funded, like you're getting scholarships of about 40 to 50,000 Canadian dollars, 60,000 Canadian dollars. So it is left for you to go ahead and look for supervisors. If you feel you have the time to look for supervisors that can take you and then convince them that you are a good candidate for research, then they will accept you first before you go ahead and apply for admission, and then you now apply for your visa. But I must also warn you, even if you're getting a scholarship, even if you're getting scholarship of $50,000, $100,000, you still need to show your own proof of funds. Not as much as, but at least you still need to show that you have some money in your account for the visa to be approved. So if you want to go for another master's, it's still fine. There is no harm. People do different programs. Somebody can do a PhD and come and do a certificate program. If you already had a master's before, as long as it is not in the same, you're not choosing another master's in the same what do you call it now, in the same program, then you're fine. I mean, you can't have an MBA and then come to do another MBA again, except there's a specialization, or except you want to convince the visa officer that there's a difference between the MBA you did and then the new MBA that you want to come and do. It's best to have something different. So if you're doing a master's, let it be different masters, not the same masters. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. I have an MBA, DBA, considering applying for a master of data. Is it true that I'll be rejected for no progression? Okay, so let me just look at it again. MBA, DBA, master data analytics. So when it comes to applying for your visa, your ability to convince the visa officer why you chose that program is what is important. There is nothing like progression, right? You can have 10 master's program. Why you are coming for that master's is left for you to convince the visa officer. So everything boils down to what you write on your SOP. You have a master's in business administration already. You have a DBA already. Now you want to come and do data analytics. Why do you want to do data analytics? What is the career prospect of doing data analytics? Like, have you been working as a data analyst and you think that you don't have sufficient knowledge in data analysis that is making you want to choose that program? If yes, then you can go ahead and apply. But you just need to convince them. You need to give detailed reasons, convincing reason why the master's in data analytics is very, very important to your current career and your future career. You must also know that you don't just choose a program. At least the program should align with what you're currently doing. Let's say you are working as a data analyst right now, but you don't have extensive knowledge, and you feel that a master's in data analysis and the data analytics, whatever, can give you that extensive knowledge to work as a data analyst. Or you've established a business and you're seeing that there is traction in the area of data analysis and you need a master's to be able to convince people that could give you more contracts in the area of this, in this specialty. If you write it in that way, then there's a possibility of getting your visa approved. It is what you write on your SOP that will determine if your application will be approved or not. So if you don't write anything convincing, they will not be convinced. But you have to write something convincing for you to say you want to do another master's. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. Since my SOWP result is low with additional 6 months course in healthcare, can I go for category-based draws? I'm over 40. Does it require a great EE profile? If you're over 40 and your SOWP result is low, you will not be able to create an express entry profile. If you're over 40, your SOWP result is low, it will not allow you to create an express entry profile. So, I mean, you just have to find another option of getting provincial nomination. And for now, the provinces that are even picking people from outside Canada is only Ontario for now. well, they've reached their cap as at December 23rd, or which day did they publish it, that they've exhausted their 21,500 nomination slots. Ontario alone has 21,500 nomination slots, provincial nomination slots, Ontario alone. Manitoba has about 9,000. British Columbia about 9,000, 10,000. Alberta the same thing too. The smaller provinces have about 3,000 to 4,000. So once they reach their cap, it is finished. So if you have qualifications in healthcare, let me look at your question again. If you have qualifications in healthcare, and you cannot create an express entry profile because of age, the best thing you can do is to look for opportunities that will give you a job offer that can also give you the opportunity of applying for provincial nomination. And just few provinces have this option, just few. Number one is British Columbia, number two, Nova Scotia, and then the Atlantic provinces like New Brunswick. So if you get a job offer, you can immigrate under the Atlantic immigration program. That way, you don't need to stress yourself about creating an express entry profile, and don't bother yourself about express entry profile. Then even this new program that they announced, you can take advantage of it as well. That's the rural immigration class, and then the Alberta rural renewal stream as well. Check for job opportunities in these areas. And if you get a job offer, you can then apply for PR through their different pathways that has nothing to do with express entry. So don't bother yourself about express entry, because I know that even if you try to get very high scores, if you are not bilingual, let's say if you don't have French language skills to match your English language skills, if you don't have a master's, if you don't have a sibling in Canada, you might not be able to create an express entry profile. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. Question is about the new caregiver pilot program that will enable have PR on arrival, when it will be launched. So this thing is what everybody is waiting for. We are waiting for announcements. Today is Sunday. We just have tomorrow and Tuesday for us to know if there will be anything concerning the new caregiver pathway on January 1. If this year ends and there's no announcement, we don't know when they will make the announcement again. For now, no announcement has been made. So let's just leave it like that. So we have tomorrow and next tomorrow to know if there will be anything concerning the caregiver pathway where you get PR on arrival. Okay. I'll move on to the next question. I want to ask if it is deliberate Saskatchewan government have not sent out ITA for some months now, unlike other provinces. I think I mentioned this thing in one of my one of the lives. I mentioned it that Saskatchewan has been cleaning house. They've been doing a lot of analysis on their programs. They've paused some programs, they opened some programs, and for them not to even issue an ITA, I don't know why, but the only thing I can say is that they've been cleaning house, like they've been analyzing their programs. And the reason why I said this is because one of my clients, they sent her an email to provide documents. She came in as a permanent resident and they just wanted to confirm if she was complying, right? So they've been doing that to some other persons. That's why they paused some programs. And that's why I think, I'm just using the word I think because I don't know. I think that they are trying to analyze the number of people that have gotten PR, the number of people have landed, people who are staying in their province. Saskatchewan is very, very strict when it comes to people staying in their province, and not just using their province to get a PR status and leave. Okay, I'll move on to the next. Apply for the SOWP since May 2024, did biometrics 5th of September. Until now, I've got no response. Okay, so if you've already done biometrics, you shouldn't be worried. Like you did biometrics in September, you shouldn't be worried. The reforms will not affect you. As long as they've asked you to do biometrics, the reforms will not affect you. What you can do is apply for your GCMS notes. That will tell you what the status of your application is. If you have passed eligibility. If you have passed eligibility, you will see it on your GCMS notes. If they say they've not started eligibility, that means they are still looking at your application, right? If you've passed eligibility, then just go and thank God, because that is the signal that you will soon get your PR. So whenever they decide to give you your PR, it's fine. But if they say, if your GCMS note states eligibility not started, it means that they've not even looked at your application yet. So you shouldn't be worried. The reforms will not affect anything as long as you've already passed through this phase of biometrics already. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. Do I need to get a job offer before I can apply for rural immigration pathway? Yes, you need a job offer. Without a job offer, you can't apply. They've not even announced the communities yet. We are waiting for maybe tomorrow and next tomorrow for them to announce it. If they don't announce it, that means it will be in 2025. So yeah, you need a job offer to apply for the rural community immigration class. Okay. Do you have suggestions for a postgraduate work permit which is about to expire? The person has 1 year, 7 months work experience in Canada. Okay, so this is subjective because I don't know the province the person is for me to tell the person if the person should get out of that province or if the person should remain in that province. If the person is in Ontario, I typically tell people in Ontario, if you can quickly get a job offer in any of the Atlantic provinces, especially with an employer that is designated under the Atlantic Immigration Program, you would automatically bypass the residency requirement and apply for PR immediately. But if the person is already in those Atlantic provinces, then I don't know what occupation the person is doing, right? I need details of what occupation the person is doing. If the person is in Ontario, what occupation is the person doing? Is the person's occupation in demand or not in demand? If the person's occupation is not in demand, then I'll tell the person to quickly switch occupations as fast as possible and then apply for the occupation in demand stream, because next year Ontario will renew, they will start issuing out fresh provincial nominations again, and they will start inviting people, so you have to take advantage of the opportunities that are available in the province that the person is in. So I need to know the person's occupation, I need to know the province the person is living in for me to give a proper advice. Okay. Student career advisor in Nigeria. Husband is a civil engineer working under a firm, 33 and 34. Have a BSc, PGD. I'm not seeing your question properly. Okay. With the high CRS score, please, what are our best pathway for PR this 2025? I've been in pool since January this year with low CRS points. IELTS 7.5, reading 9.0, writing 7.5. The best advice I can give is if you can start learning French. If you can start learning French, it will help you. Or you search for a job, but with your occupation, student career advisor. Okay, so your occupation is actually under educational counseling, which is part of the occupations in demand under the category-based draw for healthcare. But if I'm going to advise you, you have to boost your points either by retaking the IELTS again, or you start learning French to increase your chances. If you can start learning French to increase your chances, because if I say you should search for a job, I don't think you'll be able to get a job offer based on your current occupation, except you want to pivot into healthcare. Student career advisor, you might not likely get a job offer in Canada, except you want to pivot into something else, healthcare or trades, for you to be able to get a job. But you qualify for the category-based draw for healthcare. It's just that particular occupation, you might not be able to get it. If you want to find work, you will not be able to get job with it, except maybe you want to switch to early childhood education. That's another option as well, or healthcare. Okay, I'll move on to the next question. Wife has a study visa, but due to the present situation in Canada, she wishes to change route. What route can you suggest? So if she has a study visa already, what route does she want to change to? Like, why is she changing route? What is the current situation? Please provide, what is the situation? Like, give me more details of why, what she's studying, which school, which province, and what the situation is, so that I'm able to give you a proper advice. Okay. What steps can someone take studying social service community worker in the college, working with an organization? What do I do for a PR program? You're studying social service community worker in the college. The moment you start working as a community worker, you have you have lots of opportunities, especially with this rural community immigration class that is coming up, right? As a community worker, if you can do support services as well, as in support services to people that have some form of disabilities that need some form of support within the community, then you can also search for jobs in those areas and get a job offer that can allow you immigrate. Like once the rural immigration communities are announced, I would say you start searching for work in those communities, especially anything that has to do with providing support within the community. If you can provide support to people with disabilities and all of that, can help. Okay. Okay, so you're saying that her admission was withdrawn. So when her admission was withdrawn, what happened? Is she already in Canada, and is she attending on that program already? Which school is she attending? Which school is she going to? Is the school eligible for PGWP? I need those details. All right, thanks. I heard that for SOWP extension, the many applicants can have a job offer in tier 4 and 5. Okay, so this one is a recent one. For SOWP extension, the main applicant, that's the person that the SOWP is tied to. Let's say husband and wife came in, the husband is a student, the wife is under SOWP. The husband has applied for PGWP, and then the wife needs to apply for SOWP, right? Recently, they started accepting tier 4, tier 5. Before, they were not accepting tier 4, tier 5. They were limited to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. But now they started accepting tier 4, tier 5. Okay. She applied to CNA college and was also given, but due to change of DLI issue, she decided to change route. Okay, so she decided to change route to what? Like, change route. Is she studying or she's not studying? Is she just in Canada not doing anything? Because if she's in Canada and not doing anything, that means she cannot violate the rule, the 150 days rule of studies. She cannot violate that 150 days rule of studies. If she violates the 150 days rule of studies, she has to leave Canada. So I don't know. Is she changing routes to what? Is she in the CNA college study? Is the CNA college a PGWP eligible school where she can study and then she will still get postgraduate work permit, or it is not a PGWP eligible school? If it is not, that means all she needs to do is do first semester in that school and then go back to New Brunswick Community College and request for admission to be reinstated. I need the details. You're giving me details in piecemeal, and it's I don't know how to advise you if you're giving me details in piecemeal. Is she studying or she's not studying? If she's studying, what is she studying? And changing route, what route does she want to change to? Okay, so I'll move on to the next. Closed work permit. An employer already applied for your PR. After PR approval, can you leave the employer, and will it affect your citizenship application if you leave? No. If you're on closed work permit and you've applied for your PR, if you get your PR, you are free to work for anybody. You are not tied to the employer anymore. You can go whatever. If it's a provincial related PR application, that means you have to stay in the province. But in terms of working with the same employer, no, you're not tied to the employer. Okay. If I do a master's in Ontario, can I get PNP in another province? And since Northeastern isn't eligible for Ontario's graduate stream, what are my other options? So if you're doing a master's in Ontario, you can get provincial nomination in another province. You can move to provinces like Manitoba, move to provinces like Alberta, move to provinces like New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and then if you come to New Brunswick, you target employers that are under the Atlantic Immigration Program, or you have to work for 6 months and then be eligible for the skilled worker stream. So you can get your provincial nomination from other provinces. You don't need to sit down in Ontario. Or in Ontario, try to get a job offer under the occupations that is in demand, because with that one, you don't need your educational qualification. You just need the experience. your educational qualification is not counted under occupations in demand stream. So if you get a job offer with one of the occupations that is in demand, you're eligible for the occupations in demand stream, and all you need is about 6 months to 9 months work experience to get enough points. It will be even good for you if you move to, let's say, any of the northern part of Ontario, so that you can get at least higher points based on the location. For Northeastern University, I know it's located in Toronto, so you're already getting 0 points. But for the in-demand stream, they don't calculate points for education. Okay, but if you want to move to other provinces, if you move to Manitoba, just know that you're automatically losing 200 points for schooling in Ontario. If you move to Alberta, you have to wait for at least, is it 6 months? I think so, 6 months before you become eligible to apply for their provincial nomination. If you move to New Brunswick, you have to also wait 6 months for the skilled worker stream. For the AIP stream, it has its own requirements as well. So you have to look at where can you move to that can favor you as fast as possible. Okay. First program 2022 to 2023 in NBCC was not completed because it had some carryover in the second semester. Second program was completed. Can I apply for AIP? Yes, you can apply as long as you completed your program. You can apply. If the employer is part of the employers that are designated under the AIP, right, and the employer is willing to endorse you, then you can go ahead and apply for the Atlantic Immigration Program. As long as you didn't have any break in your education. So, do you have your PGWP already? Like, if you have your PGWP, then fine, get an employer that can endorse you under AIP. Okay. 2 years stay out of 5 consecutive years as a requirement to renew the PR still applicable? Yes, it is. Oh, I have a lot of people that are in this shoe. Even my brother-in-law is in this shoe. He just brought my sibling and their children, and has been in Nigeria shortly between Nigeria and Canada. He's in this shoe. He has not lived in Canada for up to 2 years, and it's still a requirement to renew PR. Or I don't want to say it on live. there's something that people do. I don't want to say it on live because it's sensitive. I'm an RCIC, so that people will not go and quote me that I am giving wrong advice. Okay, all right. Okay, SIMP is Saskatchewan Immigration Nominee Program. I'll move on to the next. So my email is hello@caninfoconsult.com. That's my email. I'll move on to the next. Changing province for a family, can a one person move to secure PNP or other part while other partners stay to continue working there? Yes. So my friend, my very bosom friend, she did this thing. Her husband was schooling in BC. I don't know whether she watched this video. Her husband was schooling in BC. She moved to Manitoba. She moved to Manitoba when the husband was still schooling in BC. Before the husband finished his program in BC, she had met the 1-year requirement in Manitoba that made her apply for Manitoba provincial nomination. So Manitoba was now delaying. And the husband said, okay, funny enough, the husband now left BC. He tried to get a job offer. He did some work experience, 6 months work experience. It was not working out for him in BC. So he said he cannot be separated from his family for too long. He came to join her in Manitoba, and she applied for nomination. They were waiting for the nomination to come through. They had even selected, she had not gotten a letter of advice then. She was waiting for it to come through. The husband was just getting agitated that it's taking so much time. Let Kukuma go back to BC and see if he could try his luck in British Columbia and get it. He went back to BC. Luckily, he got a job offer, put in his application, and he got invited in BC. So this is what happened. So he went back to BC, and then after working for some time in BC, he was now telling his wife that instead of the wife waiting and wasting time in Manitoba, since Manitoba was not inviting them, the wife should locate back to British Columbia. The day they had called the truck to move their things from Manitoba was the day they got letter of advice to apply from Manitoba. And then the husband was like, what kind of devil is this? This thing, we have been waiting for this thing for a long time. And the day we've now made up our mind to go back as a family to British Columbia was the day they got letter of advice to apply. They had no choice. They had to move back to BC. And before they left, she submitted the application for Manitoba with the mindset that, okay, let the application go in Manitoba. If Manitoba is asking for them, she will quickly run back to Manitoba, because she had friends friends like me. Then I was in Manitoba before I left. You stay with us, and then use our address to her employer. Technically, her employer was a remote employer, so she could work for anybody, and then she still had a Manitoba employer as well, so that she could work for remote leave. So she was doing this, and then the husband got his own invitation in BC as well. And funny enough, the husband submitted his own in BC and got the nomination in BC first before Manitoba even gave her her own nomination. So once the husband got his nomination in BC first, she had to withdraw her application in Manitoba. So the answer is yes. If you're a family of two, you can split yourself just to maximize your options. Don't just relax. And this thing I'm telling you, they've now gotten their PR. Funny enough, when they were about to get their permanent residence, she was in Nigeria. She traveled to Nigeria to go and do one or two things. And then they now sent them letter confirmation that to confirm where they were, so that they could give them their PR and send them. She quickly they gave them a timeline. She quickly flew back to Canada to come and do whatever she needed to do so that they could get their PR. So they've gotten their PR now, but they got their PR from British Columbia. So, like I said, maximize your options. I know it's going to be expensive. It's not cheap. What they did was not cheap, but because they knew that they needed to get this thing out of the way, they had to maximize their options by splitting themselves in two places. While the wife was trying to get this, the husband was also on the other end trying to get. Luckily, the husband got it for the family. Okay, so I'll move on to the next person. Can someone studying Master's Computer Science in Canada change his course to study MSc Health Science in Canada in the same school? Yes, it's possible. If you're changing program in the same school, you don't have issues. You don't need to apply for study visa again. It's when you're moving from one school to another, that's when you have to apply for a study visa. Okay. So are PhD students restricted to work for only 20 hours? Secondly, is the spouse of a PhD student under sponsorship eligible for open work permit? All students are restricted to 24 hours work. All students, irrespective of your level of program, you're restricted to 24 hours work. But if you get it, there's a way your study permit conditions are stated. So you look at the conditions and follow the conditions. Now, for your spouse is eligible for a spousal open work permit, and your spouse can work for the number of hours he or she wishes to work. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. 35 years, have 16 years study gap, recently graduated with an associate degree in computer programming from North Cyprus this July, but I don't have a BSc. What province and program do you suggest I apply? Okay, for now, you've not mentioned what your occupation is. I don't know whether you want to come and study or you want to come as a permanent resident for me to be able to advise you. So probably give me more details. I would like to know what your occupation is and what your age is so that I can give you the best option. Okay, what's the PR pathway for someone going through trade school? So we have the trades category under express entry. That's the option that is available. Trades category under express entry. Same thing Ontario does. They will go into the pool and then pick people as well. Then if you get a job offer, you also qualify for the foreign worker stream in Ontario. Okay. What's the chances of getting PR in Winnipeg as a nursing assistant with a permanent job in a Winnipeg PCH? the chances are very high. As a nursing assistant, your occupation is already in demand. If you check the occupation in demand in Manitoba, and if you studied in Manitoba, right, you have very high chance. But if you studied outside Manitoba and you just came in, that means you have to meet the requirement of living in Manitoba for 1 year, and then you're losing 200 points already. But your chances are high in getting an invitation a letter of advice to apply, not invitation, letter of advice to apply in Manitoba. So you can get PR as long as you're in Manitoba. I mean, it's not, and I like Manitoba because they are not stressing you to ask your employer to give you an endorsement letter. They are not stressing you for that. Saskatchewan is stressing people to get a job approval letter from their employer. Prince Edward Island is doing the same thing. Some other provinces are doing the same thing. But Manitoba, they are not stressing you for that. If you have a job offer, you apply for provincial nomination, you're good to go. No need to be stressing people to be getting, what do you call it now? Job approval letter or employer endorsement. Okay. So are the former RNIP programs like Sudbury and Thunder Bay still working, or we should wait for the new? Yes, please wait for the new one until they make the announcement of the communities. We don't know which communities are eligible. If Thunder Bay and Sudbury will be part of the new communities, we don't know. So we have to wait. Once they make the announcement, of course, I'll make the publication as well. Okay. Is there any implication of changing NOC up to 3 times in one's express entry profile or OIMP under foreign worker employment stream? The person has never received an ITA. Now, changing NOC is subjective because does this person have the work experience? There is no implication in changing NOC, especially if you're changing jobs. If you're changing job and you feel that the job you've changed to, the NOC is not in demand, you switch to the one that is in demand, right? There is no implication as long as you can provide proof. What they want to see is evidence. If you change from NOC 1111 today to NOC 5555 tomorrow, do you have evidence that you have the experience in NOC 5555? You can change NOC as much as you can, especially if you have looked at it. The job description is the key thing. 80% of the job description of the tier code you're switching to must match what your employer is giving you. If it doesn't match, they'll refuse the application because there's a mismatch in tier code. So you have to be very careful, right? You want to change as much as you can, but make sure you're changing to the right thing and make sure that 80% of your job description aligns with the tier code job description itself. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. Husband is 42, 16 years job experience in banking, wrote IELTS and made band 7.0. Banking experience. Sadly, banking is not one of the occupations in demand in Canada. It's not in demand, sadly. You have to pivot. If he has done IELTS, he will still not be able to create an express entry profile, except he has a combination of French, a sibling in Canada, right, and a master's program. So those combinations can help him create an express entry profile. But banking is not an occupation in demand. And if we are to go by that, he might not still get enough points in the express entry pool for the general draw. The general draw points is about 500, like it's too high. So he will not get enough points. So he has to switch occupation, or look for occupations that are in demand under the rural community immigration class. I think I did a live that was in 2022. Was it 2022? I can't remember. Either 2022 or 2023. I don't know. I did one YouTube live about one lady that immigrated under the RNIP program. She was doing something else in Nigeria, but when the RNIP started, she quickly pivoted. She pivoted into is it, what do you call it now, into working as a binder or something. People that work in this book where they bind books. She had to go and learn how to bind books in Edo State. She learned it, when she was learning it, they were paying her. She gained the experience with that. She used it to look for work in the rural community of Altona. She got the job offer and then applied for permanent residency under the RNIP program. Like, she had to switch from what she was doing before to go and learn the work that would bring her in to Canada. So if you fall into, and there are cases like that, even somebody that was working as an accountant in Nigeria, he had to go and learn welding. He learned welding, and I don't know, the community then was more than was looking for welders. He wrote them an email. At the time, he was an accountant. When he wrote them an email, they said, no, they're looking for welders. He had to go and learn welding, got the experience, and then emailed them again. They looked at his experience and invited him, and that was how he got his PR. So sometimes you could be doing something that is not eligible, but you just have to look for something that is eligible and then switch to that thing. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. As a chemical engineer, am I eligible for NOC 22100 chemical technologist and technician? It's in demand for MPNP. As a chemical engineer, so as long as the person has the work experience, right? It's not just having the educational qualification. The work experience is what matters as well, besides the educational qualification. So if the person is working in that capacity, then yes, the person qualifies. But if the person is not working in that capacity, the person does not qualify. So you must look at the work experience. Does the person have enough proof of working as a technology or technician? If so, then yes, the person qualifies. Okay. What PR route can someone above 30 years apply to? PNP or wait for French-based category-based draw? So PNP, most of the PNPs now, most of them are not picking people from outside Canada. I'll be sincere with you. Only Ontario, throughout last year, picked from outside Canada. Manitoba, they did not pick. They went to, what do you call it now? They went to Philippines to go and hire people. The people that they picked since 2023, they've not even processed or given them nomination to go ahead and apply for permanent residence. You know, and then same thing with Alberta as well. They've not been, Alberta was just changing their processes. So they've not been picking. So what I recommend is French. If you can learn French, yes, it will help you. It will open the doors for you more compared to just waiting for provincial nomination. If you can learn French, fine. Okay. Please, what amount do you think will be enough for a family of 3 for proof of funds? So, proof of funds, the general funds required for express entry is the same amount that the provincial nominations offices are using. So, if you check, just do proof of funds, express entry, the figure that comes out, you will see it. That's the same amount you use for provincial nomination. Okay. Please, has the PAR requirement for masters been affected or suspended? Is it a difficult process for the student to get in Ontario? No, it shouldn't be a difficult process. So the PAR requirement is the same requirement. Once you get your admission, the school should be giving you the PAR. It shouldn't take so much time to get the PAR. Okay. What are the chances of immigrating to Manitoba or Saskatchewan within the next 12 months, as I have a sibling in 2 provinces? So I just mentioned Manitoba just now, that they've not picked people with family members throughout this year. In 2024, they've not done that. They only went for strategic recruitment outside. The people that they even picked last year, they've not even given them nomination yet, right? Then Saskatchewan also. Saskatchewan has not done draws, like comprehensive draws, like other provinces have been doing. I think they only did like 4 or 5 draws this year. So what would be my recommendation? If you have 2 siblings in these provinces, go ahead and create your expression of interest in these provinces. Anyone that picks you first, you move. Instead of just not doing anything about it, apply to the 2. Create your expression of interest in the 2 provinces. If you get invited, anyone that invites you first, you move. Okay. MB skilled worker stream. Waiting for your wife's PGWP approval. I would like to know if I can apply through this pathway, working as a PM with a designated employer. Okay, so the skilled worker stream is currently closed. They will open it next year because they quickly filled the slots. that was assigned to that slot. So typically you just need 6 months work experience. If you have 6 months work experience with the employer, then you can go ahead and apply for provincial nomination with the skilled worker stream. If you have lived in New Brunswick for 6 months, you're already eligible to apply. So go ahead and create your expression of interest on the IMB portal and then apply. Okay. My email address is hello@caninfoconsult.com. I would leave it in the description box of this video if you want to contact me via email. Okay. Okay, so now you're providing more context. You said she got her visa through NBCC, but her admission was withdrawn. So she applied to CNA for personal care attendant before the change of DLI law, but she's still in Nigeria. As long as she got the visa through NBCC, she cannot come into Canada. She has to apply for another visa again. She has to apply for another study visa again, sadly. Right? Because she's still in Nigeria and they have withdrawn her admission, she has to apply for another study visa again. CNA, I don't know whether CNA is a designated, is a DLI that allows PGWP. If CNA does not allow PGWP, you have to look for another school that gives PGWP, or go back to NBCC, tell them to reinstate her admission, which I doubt, because I mean NBCC, once the cap is full, it's full. They'll just tell you it's full. There's nothing they can do about it. Okay, so attached rural communities in Alberta that are qualified for, I think I've answered this question. I said I'll put it on the community tab, so I've answered it. Okay, so I have 5 more minutes. If I didn't answer your question today, please join me again tomorrow, the same time tomorrow. Like I said, I want to do live today, tomorrow, and 31st. Instead of me creating videos, it's better for me to answer the questions immediately. Okay, so let me see. Current job categories, policies of main spouse in order to get approval for extension of SOWP. So there is no job category. All jobs tier 1, 2, 3, 4 eligible to apply for SOWP extension. All job categories are eligible to apply for extension, except tier 5 and 6. Marketing experience and certificate back home and working currently as an early childhood educator in Canada. It's to claim the EC experience on PR application with no certificate in ECA. Okay, so if you're working as an early childhood assistant in Canada, right, my recommendation is there are schools online. I don't know which province you are in. I know that if you're in Alberta, because I've done the research for Alberta, I still mentioned that I will do a video for ECA, which I have not done. I'll do it next year. That will be one of the first videos I should do next year, just to get it out of my way. Okay, so if you're in Alberta, right, there are 2 online schools that the government of Alberta has approved for people to learn or get level 1 certificate for ECA. Level 1. Level 1 just needs about 45 hours of training, which is about 2 to 3 days, right? 2 days or 3 days, depends on how they spread it. 45 hours of training and you get that certificate, and it is free. You're not paying for it. As long as you show proof of your residence in Alberta, proof of your status in Alberta, you can partake in that. You get the certificate and you're fine. I don't know which province you are in for me to advise how you can proceed. But if you want to apply for PR, I would recommend you get the certificate, because I mean, even if you're working as a childhood assistant and you're not working as the early childhood educator, they will still need to see some educational qualifications to back or to support your experience, your work experience. This is why I mentioned that in Alberta, the level 1 does not need you to pay for it. The government is funding that particular certificate. All you need is 45 hours, show proof that you are living in Alberta and a resident of Alberta, and then you can do that and get the certificate and you're done. So that's the best advice I can give. I'll move on to the next question. What is the standard POF requirement for PNP, non-express entry skilled worker stream under Newfoundland and Labrador work permit? Okay, PNP non-express entry is the same proof of funds as express entry. PNP non-express entry, the proof of funds requirement is the same as express entry. So check express entry and you will see the amount that you can use for your family size. Okay, so AIP is open. AIP is a permanent program now. It's no longer a temporary program. You can go ahead and search for jobs. But like I said, bankers, you can hardly get jobs as a banker in Canada, except you pivot into something that is in demand. You know, if you pivot, yes, but if you're looking for a banking job, you cannot get it. Okay, can family apply for TRVs while applying for PGWP, SOWP extension and study permit for kids on the main applicant GCK account? Yes, you can apply for TRV. Yes, you can, using the same GC key. Okay, so drillers in trades category. No, drillers are not, I don't think it's one of the occupations under the trades category. It's a trades job, right? But it's not under the trades category for express entry. It's not. But if you get a driller job, I think provinces like British Columbia and Alberta, you can get provincial nomination in those provinces. Okay, so it's already 1 hour mark. I'll answer 2 more questions and then we'll end the live. I work as an entrepreneur. I'm into hair making and money exchange. I'm not working for an employer. Please advise me on both whether to come as a student or PR so I can decide which to go for. Okay, so if you're working as an entrepreneur and you're into hair making, if you want to come as a permanent resident, it's a function of your educational qualification as well, besides your work experience. Now, with your work experience, none of them is in demand in any province. But if you add something to it, if you say you're doing hair, if you go and learn massage therapist and learn how to do massage therapy work, right, and you get the experience, then you can immigrate as a permanent resident. But if you cannot wait to learn massage therapy and do the work and get the work experience, then you can come as a student and do a program in that area. Because you said you're selling hair. Hair is not in demand in any province, if you look at it critically, except you want to come through the general express entry route. And general express entry route, the what do you call it now? The requirements are quite high. Or if you can learn French, then you can come in with your work experience. You don't need to switch work experiences if you can learn French. So I'm also going to give the same advice to everybody. If you don't want to switch jobs, if you don't want to switch your work experience, then learn French so that you don't switch your work experience. Because with French, they don't need you to switch your work experience. All they need is your French language skills. You know, that's what you need, your French language skills. And create your express entry profile. If you get good enough scores, you get invited under this French category-based draw, or Ontario also sends a notification of interest for people who have French language skills. Okay. So next question, is a registered nurse in high demand in Canada? Registered nurses are in high demand in Canada. They are in demand everywhere in Canada. There is no province that is immune from saying that they don't need nurses. I just mentioned that Manitoba went on a recruitment event in the Philippines to hire nurses. They hired about 350 or 400 nurses from the Philippines, you know, and they've been doing that. Manitoba, they go to Philippines. Saskatchewan also goes to the Philippines. They even have a particular program for registered nurses. So Saskatchewan has program for registered nurses. Nova Scotia has, Alberta has, British Columbia has, Ontario does not have. So these 4 provinces, they have special programs for registered nurses. Manitoba, I did a video. I don't know whether you've watched it. There's a video I did where I mentioned that if you're a registered nurse and if you have good IELTS score, you can apply directly for permanent residence or provincial nomination. Yeah, provincial nomination, because it's under modern community. They have a program directly for just nurses and doctors. Doctors, they specify the countries the doctors must come from, but for nurses, you don't need to come from those countries that they listed. You can come from any country, but they need your IELTS score to meet a certain requirement for you to apply. So yeah, so I think maybe I should just take 2 more questions to meet the five minutes past my time mark, and then we'll call it a day. Tomorrow, same time, we will do another session again tomorrow. Okay, so what advice to get PR, studying PSW hybrid to complete by March 2025? Getting a job in Ontario is difficult. No job since December 2023. If getting a job in Ontario is difficult, please move out. Move out of Ontario to provinces that you can get a job and you can get endorsement either under the Atlantic Immigration Pilot or the skilled worker route that would make you eligible to apply for PR, instead of being stuck in Ontario and you're not getting a job offer. Or you move to the northern part of Ontario. If you're able to get a job offer in the northern part, then you can qualify for the in-demand stream or the international student stream. But if you're not getting a job offer since December, I don't know if it's this December, like December 2024 or December 2023. If it's December 2023, that's 1 year. That means you have to leave Ontario. Go to a province that they are looking for people that have your expertise. Nova Scotia did an interview. They advertised that they are looking for international people. I mean, and there are people in Canada that can do the job. So why don't you take advantage of that and apply to Nova Scotia? Places like Nova Scotia, if you just get maybe 6 months work experience, in the occupations that is in demand, you apply for provincial. Is it 6 months? I think 6 months or 1 year. I'll check. But I mean, if you get a job offer in Nova Scotia, you can apply for either the Atlantic Immigration Program or the skilled worker or occupation in demand. Okay. This is the very last question I'll answer today, and then we'll continue tomorrow. I am an accountant and wish to do CPA in Canada. Will CPA accounting be regarded as high demand skill? Sadly, no. Sadly, no. Depends on the province as well, too. So I don't know where you want to do your CPA. Is it in BC or in Alberta or in Ontario? For provinces like Manitoba, accounting is in demand. Accounting is an in-demand occupation. But for provinces like Alberta, I don't know. Accounting is not one of the occupations in demand. Same thing for BC, same thing for Ontario. Manitoba has a very long list of occupations that they have in demand, in their in-demand list. So if you are the type of person that you want to, how will I put it now? You want to remain in your career, right? You don't want to start switching careers, then look at Manitoba occupations in demand list. Unfortunately, they only need people who, unfortunately, you can only get MPNP if you have a family member, or if you're applying to those communities that are looking for people that do not need family member support. Some of those communities were actually under the RNIP stream, which they have scrapped. So by the time they do the rural community immigration class, by the time they announce those communities, you should check. But I don't know, you just have to switch between or choose between remaining in that career line or switching to something that is in demand. If you do CPA in Manitoba and you get a job offer as an accountant in Manitoba, you can apply for PR. You're not changing programs or switching to a career that is in demand, because Manitoba's list of occupations in demand is still intact. They've not changed it. But for provinces like Ontario, you have to wait. If your what do you call it now? If your occupation is in demand, it will be under the international student stream. Accounting will be under the international student stream or the master stream for the master's stream, you don't need to switch occupations. You can maintain your accounting background. You can maintain it. Master's or PhD stream, you can maintain that accounting background without necessarily switching occupations. But you have to school in a school, or you have to go to school in one of the schools that have been designated for the master's stream. If you just choose any school, you might not be eligible. So you have to look at the schools that have been designated for the master's stream. That is Ontario. For BC, it is not in demand. It is not in demand in BC. So I don't know where you want to do the CPA. If you want to do the CPA in Ontario, like I said, choose a school that is selected under the master stream so that you maintain that particular occupation and you don't need to switch programs. Manitoba, you don't need to switch programs. Alberta, it is not in demand. That's accounting is not in demand in Alberta. Okay, I think that would, I will end our session for today. I want to say a very big thank you for joining me today. It's not been easy this year, but I'm hanging in. I just want to shut down completely, but I'm still hanging in. And we'll see tomorrow. So if I didn't answer your questions today, please, by the time I put the banner up or the link for tomorrow's session, please put your question there so that it will be the first questions I will attend to tomorrow. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today. I just saw some questions and I'm like, should I answer them or leave it to tomorrow? So I'll leave it to tomorrow. Let's discuss tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me and have a beautiful evening wherever you have. Beautiful afternoon. Thank you. See you tomorrow. All right. Bye.